Well guys, you join us here today in a very rainy setting with the all-new 2025 Audi SQ6 e-Tron Sportback. This is a really cool all-new vehicle from Audi, and this is now the second vehicle on their all-new premium platform electric that we've been able to experience here at Allcarnews. With this Sportback Model 1, specifically in this SQ6 format, is probably one of the most unique, and I think one of my now favorite new Audi products that I've been able to experience this year so far. It is very stylish, very quick, very luxurious, isolating, and all of the great things you would expect from an EV. Though at this around as tested price, north of $80,000, is it something you should consider or wait just a little bit longer for some more competition to come out to even out the playing field? That's something we're going to discuss throughout the course of this video. And of course, as always, we'll take you on a full in-depth tour and review of all the crazy features that this all-new Audi will offer for you. Let's go dive in. Okay, maybe it is pretty intense. Of course, as this is an EV, we don't really have anything under the hood in terms of our powertrain, though we do have a quite usable 64-liter front trunk space. Closing up the hood though, under the skin of this all-new premium platform electric developed by Audi and Porsche is this unique architecture. It's a dedicated EV architecture, 800 volts as well, so you're going to get nice quick charging speeds. And this particular SQ6 in this e-Tron Sportback Quattro format is quite fun to drive around with up to 510-ish horsepower in the launch control mode. In a day-to-day driving applications, that's going to go down to around 480-ish horsepower, which is still plenty, though not that big of a bump over the regular Q6 e-Tron SUV, which is getting around 450, 440 horsepower in that range. Now, this vehicle also is really interesting. So the motors, the two motors, the front one's actually making in the 180 horsepower range, and the motor out back in the rear is making the 370 horsepower range. So it is a rear biased vehicle as well. So it's definitely going to be a little bit more fun to drive in those scenarios. And you do notice that actually out on the road. We also are getting an adaptive air suspension and adaptive damping system, and a really impressive regenerative braking modes that have up to 3 to 4 different modes, including a one-pedal drive style. And it really does help to bring you to a full stop without ever really using your brakes. And it is not something that's too super aggressive, and you can definitely play around with it as well, which I really like to see. Range is okay from this 100 kilowatt hour battery, which around 94 kilowatt hours is usable. You're gonna get around 275 to 285-ish miles out of this SQ6 Sportback e-Tron. Now, if you go for the regular Q6 Sportback or Q6, you're gonna get over 300 miles of range. This one, of course, with its performance focus, and since this one particularly is on winter tires, it's really not getting the best range. And as with all EVs, in this colder climate we're in today, it's around 38 degrees Fahrenheit. All of that range figures are going to drop just a little bit more, especially if you're going to need to be using your heated elements in the interior as well. So that's something you're going to want to keep in mind. Now, this car and all Audi EVs are really unique in the aspect that they have 2 charge port doors. On your driver's side, you're going to be able to get your power charge port door right over here. And this is where you're going to get both DC fast charging as well as just regular AC level 2 charging. Now, our DC fast charging rates, since this is an 800 volt architecture, can go up to around 270-ish kilowatts of speed, though just yesterday we did charge this vehicle from 7% state of charge to 80% state of charge, and we only saw around 178 to 180 kilowatts of speed at a 350 kilowatt DC fast charger. We did precondition the battery as well, but it is pretty cold out, and those are more real world scenarios, though it did only take 28 minutes to do so, which is not too far off of what Audi's claimed time of 10 to 80% state of charge in 21 minutes. So that's actually pretty nice to see. And it kept those speeds all the way up to around 60%, and then it just tapered down a little bit to around 120 kilowatts. So that's also nice to see. It has a nice charging curve. Now, like I mentioned, you can use both DC fast charging and AC charging on this particular door. AC charging happens in around 9.6 kilowatts of speed, but on the passenger side, you also have another charge door just purely for level 2 charging. So if you have a different wall placement for your at-home charger, if you have that, you can have it on that side of the vehicle or this side of the vehicle, and it doesn't really matter. Joining me on the wheels and tire front, This is actually a very weirdly unique situation for this particular vehicle. If you are purchasing an SQ5 SUV or Sportback, you're not going to be finding these wheels particularly. These are a unique wheel and tire setup that we have got on this particular press car that have a Bridgestone Blizzak winter tire on it, as it is technically pretty much almost winter right now, but this is not what you're going to get on the vehicle. So I'll show you guys what you would particularly get on this car. So, and these tires are a unique setup, I would say. These are all 20-inch wheels we have on all four corners. Though up front here, I believe we have two 55, 50 R20s, and out back we have two 85, 45 R20s. So we do have a staggered wheel setup on here, a little bit wider out back. This is, again, an SQ6 Sportback eTron Quattro, very long name, but that's going to give you a little bit more of a performance style stance and driving experience with this setup of wheel and tire. And shockingly, these tires are actually pretty quiet for a winter tire. On the visual front, I actually think this thing looks absolutely epic. It's one of my favorite looking new Audi products I've seen. Yes, it's an SUV. Yes, it's an EV, but I have to say, I think they actually really nailed it on the design language of this particular vehicle. This color, magnet gray, probably wouldn't be my particular choice. I'd probably want to go for something a little bit bolder, but I think it works. And since we have the Edition 1 package, we are getting some darked out Audi rings and some other unique bits around this exterior, though it really isn't anything crazy, mostly just a lot of visual and appearance stuff. Now, we're also going to see we have a magnet gray front Audi single frame grille over here as well. And in the lower portion down here, we do have some active aero vents for some cooling, as well as some sensors hidden for our radar adaptive cruise control systems. Now, since this is an Edition 1, which is based off of, the prestige Audi packages, we're getting some of the coolest headlights I think I've ever seen. These are these really dynamic LED headlights over here that have 8 different signature patterns you can choose from for your daytime running light. So this is one particular pattern. I think this is number 5 in the system. I'll double check on that one, but I think this is all really cool how you can customize this stuff. And of course, out back here, we can see the real unique bit of this particular SQ6 versus a regular one, and it's the Sportback rear end. I think this looks a lot cooler than the smaller Q4 Sportback EV that Audi offers. This looks way more premium and more unique, even more so than even the Q8 Sportback that they offered before, all of which are on totally different platforms and architectures, and this one is superior to all of those. But we also are getting the OLED dynamic taillights on this particular Prestige Edition 1 version of this vehicle. So these will also change to 8 different patterns and have probably, again, one of the coolest light animations I have ever seen on a modern vehicle. Audi still owns the market when it comes to exterior lighting design. And I like this Sportback shape too. It has a really unique Audi-esque persona here. We have a blacked out rear built-in spoiler as well. We're also getting this really unique Audi logo rack here that has the magnet gray on the insides as well as the black outer rim. Opening up our power tailgate, we do have an icon actually over here that's projected onto the ground to do a kick style pattern over there. In this back section over here, we actually have a decent amount of storage space behind the second row. The only downside is, of course, this Sportback sloping roofline. If you want to stack things a little bit higher, just go for the regular Q6 if you're really going to be hauling a lot of stuff more often. That's just the only downside I would say here. But we do actually still have some underfloor storage space over here. So folding up this little divider panel over here, which does fold back flat, we have our charge cable box in here, which is pretty deep actually, though this space is interrupted by our upgraded 3D Bang & Olufsen audio system. So that's a little bit of a trade-off here if you want those more premium touches. We do have some side netting over here, as well as a cargo cover and some nice controls over here to fold down that second row seats, as well as adjust their air suspension to bring it higher or lower, to lower this load floor, which is a little bit on the higher side, though this is a more sporty, design-focused vehicle. Okay, folks, now let's go hop in the rear seats now of this Audi SQ6 e-Tron Sportback. What I do like is we have keyless access on all 4 doors on this vehicle, which is a wonderful luxury feature, and I really like to see that. Let's see how wide the door opening is on this all-new premium platform electric vehicle. Not particularly the widest door opening, but I think it's enough to get in and out of the vehicle. First up, we're going to note our door panels over here. This particular SQ6 model is getting some nice kind of micro suede material. Hopping inside, pretty snug fit already back here, but let's check out our door thunk. And interesting to note here, we don't actually have soft closed doors on this model like we did on the A6 e-Tron Sportback Prestige. Closing up the door though, pretty solid, very sturdy thunk, just like we felt on the A6, which is actually really nice. Now, what also we have in this interior, again, all this micro suede material on the door panel. We have ambient lighting strips back here as well. This upper door card, though, is this really, really hard, rock solid material. So not the best to rest your arm on if you're sitting back here. Though I do like this nice Bang & Olufsen speaker as part of our upgraded audio system we have back here. And unlike in the A6 e-Tron, we do get some door unlock controls back here. So interesting kind of stuff throughout this whole new premium platform electric lineup. It doesn't seem to be very consistent so far for this 2025 model year. Also stuff back here, we do have a grab handle up here with a coat hook, as well as another hook right over here, which is nice. And we do have our power window control. I do like this matte plastic material, actually. This feels actually very premium, and I don't want to ever see gloss black again. So this is a really actually nice welcome touch. It reminds me of some earlier days of German interiors, which actually is really cool. This is a nice soft padded area. We have a decent size cubby, but I would not be able to fit a water bottle or really anything in here unless you really squeeze it in, as it's a little bit of a narrow opening. Legroom wise, it's okay. This actually interior is really not that big. I have a good amount of foot space, shockingly. Knee space is okay. This is my driving position. I could totally move up just a few inches, really not that much more, but it is still a little bit tighter in this cabin. We do have some storage nets back here as well. The only good part about this is my legs don't feel super high up in that aspect. I think largely this is due to it being an SUV. So the seating position is higher than it was in the A6 e-Tron we were in. We do thankfully though have heated outboard seats as well as some climate controls back here, but really not too much. And we do have manual air vent controls back here, which is nice. There's a little tiny hump in the floor, but nothing too crazy. So you could technically put someone in this center seat, but our foot space back here is really not good for the center seat, even though the outboard passenger lower seat rest space is actually pretty good. So it might be a little bit of a tight squeeze. These seats though are really gorgeous back here. This is the upgraded full Napa leather interior package with this nice diamond style quilted stitching. This is a nice, and you can also get a red leather option as well. And I believe there are some leather free options in different trims. I don't know if this particular edition one can have a leather free option though. So you may have to play around with the configurator to see which one that would work best for you. Though you can definitely see right here the compromises of the Sportback, of this sloping roofline here. It gets a little bit less headroom, but you can see we have some cutouts over here for said headroom, which is nice. And we do have these interior ambient lights, which are really incredibly bright. In the center console space over here, we can fold this down, and we are going to get two cup holders over here. This thankfully is nice and squishy and padded, so that's going to be nice. And it's also very, very sturdy. It's not going to plop down when you put cups in it, so that's also really great to see. Opening up this door panel over here, we're gonna cool little welcome animation pops onto this interior, which is a really nice touch. And the door panel treatment is largely the same as the rear, which we'll get into in just a second. But we do have these nice illuminated S side sill plates over here, and this one is getting much nicer pedals than we saw in the A6, as this is an SQ6 model, not a Q6. And I think the biggest upgrade though are these seats. These are the upgraded kind of sport style seat design. They're really comfortable seats. Again, full leather in this particular interior option here. We do have adjustable thigh support over here, which is wonderful. And this one is getting a massage function, adjustable lumbar, and lots of power adjustments as well. Then we do have these S badges in the seats here that don't light up for some reason, or at least they're not on this particular model. That would be a nice little upgrade. And we do have speakers in each of these headrests over here as part of our upgraded audio system. Getting inside up front is actually incredibly easy. We have so much space over here. Again, no soft closed doors on this one, but let's have a listen to the front door funk. Pretty solid as well as the rear. And the vehicle instantly comes to life for us, as you can see right now. So quickly starting off on the door panel side of this interior over here, we have a little bit of some nicer stuff going on in the front cabin section. So we have a little bit even more of this micro suede material, nice ambient lighting over here, as well as on the speaker design over here, which is a nice little touch. But this upper portion is still relatively really hard, unfortunately, which isn't too great if you're going to rest your arm on there. And the lower portion is that harder plastic design, though these door cubby pockets are much better designed up front than they are out back. We also have, again, minimal gloss black plastic just until you get to this giant haptic touch panel over here that we did see on the A6 e-Tron. And this is pretty much the new Audi panel over here. So I mentioned this on the A6. You get a blank switch here for your lock unlock switch. I'm not too sure why they couldn't just design a piece over here that did not have this. but you get one on the passenger side, as you can see over here, to lock and unlock your doors. So to do so on here, you use this haptic panel. You can see it does still work. It does press in actually like an actual button, but this also contains all of your lighting controls over here for your headlights, our fog lights, our mirror controls, our folding controls, our seat memory, as well as the child lock. So there's a lot of stuff in this one little panel over here. We do have window controls, which are just all normal, thankfully. And we do have a storage cubby over here that is fully felt lined, which is nice. Nice trim over here, and this is kind of like faux-ish carbon fiber trim, which feels, I'm not gonna lie, not particularly premium. It feels just like a textured plastic to me, though the upper portion of the dash is a little bit nicer and stitched. We have an additional speaker up here as well, and our absolutely colossal augmented reality heads up display in this cabin. Though Audi just announced for the 2026 model year, these scroll wheel things over here, as you can see, they are haptic panels. For 2026 model year, these are going to be a physical scroll wheel, which is a huge change. That actually hasn't been confirmed just yet for the US market, but it's probably going to be coming soon. Also new for the 2026 model year, which you may want to wait for, is we're going to get a normal virtual cockpit back once again. So right now, all we can see is this car, or we can put all those things away and make it a more cleaner screen. When you pop it into drive, you get this kind of view of the road, which you can just shrink or make bigger, but you can't put a map up here or anything like that, like in other Audi products of the past. So that's changing for 2026. As is the information screen software, which is kind of crazy. So a lot's changing just from one model year. So if you aren't a fan of this stuff for 2025, you may want to wait a little bit. But for now, this is what's being sold. So this is what we are going to be reviewing. I do have to say, I like this version of the steering wheel. The S version of the steering wheel is a lot nicer than the just regular one we saw in the A6. We also are getting paddle shifters on this vehicle as well, and these are to adjust our regenerative braking. Now, the rest of the stuff in here is pretty much what we saw again in the A6 e-Tron. So this gigantic curved OLED display here. I have to say the quality and the design of the software is pretty nice. I actually got used to it really quickly in the A6, and same thing with this vehicle as well. I actually don't really mind it too much. I just wish some of the things like they are already fixing for 2026 were on this 2025 model, because that would have been nice to review for y'all. On the main display over here for our infotainment system, like I mentioned, we do have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, wireless connectivity there, which is nice. And it's really easy overall to use. We have a main app drawer over here like we saw on that vehicle. And the built-in Audi infotainment system is really fantastic. It's super quick. Swiping over from this panel over here is going to bring us a lot of these really quick and easy controls. So all of our safety systems are really easily controlled through this screen over here. We also have incredible controls here for our interior lighting. And I like how each display in the vehicle can be adjusted with their brightness individually. We also are able to adjust our interior cabin lighting. So we have all this really great ambient lighting. We can kind of split tone. And since we have a higher end version in the Prestige, we get 8 different exterior light animation designs. So we have OLED taillights, matrix LED, these headlights up front, which are really advanced, that do all these crazy cool animations, as you can see. Even the climate system is pretty easy to use. Our heated seats are always down here, same as this whole giant climate bar, and all you do is press this little button to open up the full climate panel. And there's even a comfort assist mode. So if you want to heat just, your hands or your feet, or cool your feet, or just provide fresh air, these are all these individual programs with a timer on them that will specifically do that task for you, which I think is a really cool kind of luxury first touch there. And coming down to the lower cabin over here, we do have really easy, just normal, good old vents for our climate vents over here. A huge cubby down here, which does have a wireless charger over here that has this little clip on it so your phone doesn't fly around, which is nice. We also are getting 2 USB-C ports, some ambient lighting, which you can see, and a good old 12-volt socket. Down here, we also have a lot of physical controls, though they are covered in this giant gloss black sea of plastic over here, which unfortunately, I'm not sure if it's coming across on camera, is already covered in fingerprints and dust, but you're gonna have to live with it, unfortunately. We have a red start-stop switch over here if you want to start the vehicle that way. I like how they actually covered this piece over here with a micro suede material. That's a very nice touch. And we have this very small controller over here for reverse, neutral, drive, as well as our B mode. And again, just like on the A6, you really got to deliberately press that park button to get it into park. I've had a few cases where just a quick light press at different angles sometimes doesn't put it into park. We do have a nice drive select page and menu over here. So again, this is something being changed for 2026. Cup holders are really easily accessible and a good place, and they also have some nice grips on them, which is nice. And this center armrest over here is very nicely padded, I have to say. And opening this thing up over here, it has some different clicks you can kind of have it at as well if you wanted to move it to different positions. And this center panel storage over here is so incredibly deep. We actually have the entire owner's manual stuck in here. So if I can just grab it out of there, you can see how deep this thing actually goes in here. It's all the way up to like where the shifter is. So it's this huge storage cubby over here, which is really nice. But the best part about this is you still get a regular glove box in this cabin as well, so which is lockable with a key. So you still have a nice big felt line glove box. So storage in this interior, I have to say, is pretty good, Audi. You guys did a great job in terms of storage space in this cabin. On the upper portion panel over here, we do not have any sort of digital rear view mirror, which would be nice on this Sportback model, which kind of reduces visibility back there just a little bit. And up here is another giant haptic panel. And since we do have a large sunroof over here, it actually opens, which is weird because the A6 e-Tron does not open. It's a giant fixed panel with electrochromatic design in it. On the SUV, they decided to go with a opening sunroof, which is interesting. So again, I wouldn't say it's pretty consistent. I like that it opens. That's a really nice touch. And we do actually have a sunshade, but you can't control the sunshade with this button. You got to use this separate button over here. Not the worst thing on the planet, but I'm not sure why they didn't just blend it in one button. But as a passenger, real quick, I have actually quite a lot of space. I will have to say that. Lots of lateral space. These seats are very comfortable over here as well. I actually feel very, very comfy here. And as we saw in the A6 e-Tron, I actually think this is probably one of the most useful passenger displays I've ever used. So as you can see right now, it's actually in its kind of normal just state. This is a wallpaper state you can have it in right now, but you can also have it in obviously a turned off state or a full functional state. Let's turn it on real quick. And now we have it on just like that. And you have the exact same touch feedback that you get on the main infotainment display as you do on this passenger display, which is really nice. You can check and change your media sources over here, including with Apple CarPlay and stuff if that's connected. You can see your navigation overview, state of charge, your mileage, range. You can change your own personal clock over here, but it does way more stuff than that. You can access the built-in Audi navigation system, for example, so you can zoom in and out with the Google mapping system really easily, as well as input destinations, which is a nice touch. Again, go to your media library over here, for example. And then we have this whole other app drawer page here, and we don't have it on right now, but you can get YouTube, play games, and all of that fun stuff, just as you can do on this main screen over there on your passenger display. You can change the themes, and you can even go into more deep things like vehicle settings, adjust our massage seats for both the driver and passenger. So if you have someone in the car and you want to adjust their massage for the driver and they don't want to do it, you can do it for them, which is kind of a fun touch. But you can also adjust your own massage there, which is kind of fun. Popping it into reverse, we can see our reversing camera right here, which is crazy huge. Expands over this entire display over here. It's really, really quite big, and you have a great 360 view that you can kind of zoom in on all these different angles if you do need to. We also are getting a park assist function here, so if you press our camera park assist icon over here, you can access your park view as well, which is really cool, and that actually works quite well in this vehicle. Now we're going to start off this drive in one of the many drive modes. In balance, there's also a pure comfort mode, but I think balance is a little bit of a better comfort mode, blending all of the different stuff with this vehicle. And this vehicle, just like in the A6 we were in just last month, is also incredibly quiet on this cabin over here. It's really, 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 really quiet in this cabin. So quiet that you honestly can't tell how fast they're going in some scenarios because it's that quiet on the highway, which we'll get to experience. Steering is very light, but it is noticeably stiffer than the A6 or even a regular Q6, as this is an SQ6. And if you want it to really feel like a proper SQ6, you have to put it in the dynamic mode. That is where you're going to be able to really extract all the potential of this vehicle, and it really does transform. Around town here, it's very smooth and gentle. It feels like an Audi in that aspect. And like I mentioned, we have three settings of recuperation, so I can quickly adjust this with my paddle shifters here. You can see our interactive light bar here does some cool stuff with the blinkers on this Prestige model. And the turning radius on these cars for having, an all-wheel drive system and being a little bit longer than even a Q5 is actually quite nice. I'm going to pop it into B mode here to give you an example of our full force regenerative braking, one pedal drive style. It is quite aggressive that you do have to get used to it. We're going to pop it quickly into our dynamic mode here. The vehicle is going to lower. We actually get a sport sound as well, which I think is quite snazzy. We'll get a quick acceleration up this hill. Have a listen to this sound. Whoa, that thing has some serious thrust. Now, we can get up to 510 horsepower when we're in the launch mode on a day-to-day driving basis. And pretty much all normal scenarios, though, it's around the 480 horsepower range, which isn't the biggest jump up over the Q6, but you know, the most reason you're getting this particular SQ6 model is the styling upgrades, as well as the handling and, you know, overall chassis and dynamic upgrades that you're going to get with this vehicle. If I pop it right back into dynamic mode, just again, I'm going to show you how much quicker the steering is in the vehicle. It is significantly and noticeably quicker. The steering weight itself is a lot heavier. The whole car feels a lot more on edge, a lot more twitchier. Throttle is just thunderous. And I like how in this augmented heads-up display over here, the speed just increases in size as you get deeper into that accelerator pedal, which is really kind of cool. But it is definitely an experience. I will give Audi credit on that point. They've honestly, going through that corner and stepping on it a little bit, you kind of feel the rear end step out just a little bit. Very natural and very un-Audi-like. Coming to a full stop here, we do have auto brake hold, so if you push your foot down deep into the brake, it holds the vehicle if you're not using the B mode, which automatically does that when you come to a stop. Back in dynamic mode, we're going to head out onto the highway here. A little bit of a sense of the acceleration thrust in this vehicle, which is quite intense. Not as intense as you may expect for, you know, around an $80,000 plus price tag, but okay, maybe it is pretty intense. It's fast. It's a very quick vehicle, but that does come at a cost of your range. That will decrease just a bit with this additional power and using that power a lot every now and then. But this thing is not slow, not super quick, but it definitely has enough thrust to throw you back in your seat just a little bit, which is always a fun experience in these vehicles. On the highway, we're going to pop it into efficiency mode just for a second here. Hey Audi, change my ambient light color to green.
Okay, I am setting the interior light to green.
I almost prefer this, actually. It's quite cool. But on the highway, it is actually really an isolating experience. So as I mentioned, this vehicle has so much sound insulation, sound deadening all around it. It's a really very German cabin in that aspect. It feels like it's built almost for an Autobahn for really high speeds, and high speeds it can do very well. You can be cruising on the highway at 65, 70, 75 miles an hour, whatever it is that's legal in your area, and you honestly will have to keep looking at your speed because you won't realize how quick you're going. And this one has winter tires on it as well, which are somehow incredibly isolated and quiet. Otherwise, what's not my favorite thing is the whole adaptive cruise setup on the system. Now, I will have to mention, for 2026, they're getting all the fun stuff that I wish this car had. But for a 2025 all new model, for it not to have stuff like auto lane change or hands-off systems, which sure, you may not use, but every single competitor offers it. It's kind of silly that they don't have that for 2025, but it's now coming for 2026. To activate your adaptive systems here, you use your little Audi Volkswagen Group stock on the lower left side of the steering wheel column here, pull it towards you, you kind of set your speed, which you want there, to your highway set speed there, and you kind of double tap it twice and it kind of gets going right there, which is nice. So it does work. We have some kind of stuff going on in our heads-up display over here, showing us our distance control, and on our cockpit up front here, it's showing us all the cars around you and stuff. But I have to say, and I experienced this in the A6 as well, it isn't the best system on curves. So yes, this is a hands-on system, but you really do got to keep your hands on it. It doesn't do the best going around corners. I would say it's pretty fine in general scenarios, but there's been some cases where I think it's had a little trouble reading all the different lane lines. This is a pretty interesting vehicle. I think it's fun to drive. I'm not too sure who's going to be purchasing this SQ6 over a Q6 in the current moment. You can also get the Q5 and SQ5, which obviously are all gas vehicles, which look very similar to this car, but obviously are just pure gas, and very similarly sized as well, even though this is a 6 level in the Audi lineup. It's all a little bit confusing right now as they're kind of in a model year change, but this is really, you know, just an EV version, I would say, of the Q6 size of vehicle, even though this is a totally different architecture underneath. Confusing, right? Coming over to this exit ramp here, using some regen from our brake paddles over here, from our paddle shifters. So we have level 1, level 2. I really like playing with this, actually. It's actually quite fun. And this piece of road over here, and every review we go over, is really rough, really rough. This thing handles it well. Soaks up a lot of the bumps. Now, as we do enter some traffic, this is a great opportunity now to test out our 3D audio system here with the headrest speakers around both the front driver and passenger headrests, which you can adjust on or off individually in the settings, which I think is really cool, as well as a whole bunch of other great settings in here. It's a pretty good audio system. Nothing super top tier, I would say. It's definitely up there. It's not my favorite though. I've heard some other higher end, even Bowers & Wilkins or Bang & Olufsen audio systems that can be a little more deeper and fuller throughout their whole sound range, but this is pretty good, I have to say. Overall, I've enjoyed listening to it this week. Let's throw on our test track here, and as I mentioned, for our volume controls, we do have a physical volume control knob down here which we can adjust with and pause or skip tracks with, but it's a little bit far of a reach. Otherwise, I'll just use my haptic touch slider here, which I could actually physically press if I wanted to. So bringing it to a lower volume and muting it here, pretty good audio system. One thing I do like about this is that it's really always clear throughout your whole volume range. And unlike the A6 we had, there's no rattles. That one kind of rattled a little bit in this area over here when I increased the volume sound to its higher or max levels. This one's a little bit more consistent and clear in that aspect, so that's really nice to see. And the 3D effect honestly isn't super noticeable, especially with these headrest speakers. I thought it was going to be more noticeable. These headrest speakers really come into handy when you're using the built-in either Audi navigation system or using a phone call, as it isolates the sound to just me as a driver or just the passenger or something, for example. So like the rear passengers aren't being blasted with that audio. So that's a really cool touch, I think, in that aspect there. But otherwise, guys, living with this vehicle over the course of a week as we enter traffic, I'll just kind of throw on my adaptive cruise system here, as we are going to be sitting in traffic for some time. I actually really enjoyed this car. It's really fun to drive. It's great on highways. It's great on longer distances as well. It charges really quick. I got 7% to 80% state of charge in 28 minutes at a really fast charger. The range isn't super impressive, but that's what the Q6 or an A6 is really for in this vehicle. So this one is really just your higher performance model. If you want that extra boost power, you want the Audi S experience, those nice upgraded sports seats and all of that fun stuff, that's what this one's going to be here for you. But in terms of packaging and tech and feature stuff, this one is not going to be getting anything really crazy different other than, like I mentioned, that power upgrade versus a Q6. So you may want to look at that one as well. And there's a lot of more Audi EVs coming down the road, so definitely keep an eye out for those. And of course, once we get our hands on those, we will definitely review them for you guys. As always, thank you for joining me on yet another tour and review over at Allcarnews, and stay tuned for more coming soon. Cheers.